We really want them to knock out after the employer match, and that's any sort of high interest debt you have there working against them.
I mean, think about this, because a lot of people will be like, wait a minute, high interest debt, what about it filling up that emergency fund? I'm like, wait a minute, when you are paying banks 20% plus, when we talk about doing financial planning or investment planning for clients, we're not putting 20% in any of our assumptions, but somehow it is completely expected that banks are going to charge us this much. You'll never, ever, ever get ahead if you are paying banks high interest debt thinking that you're going to build wealth. No way it works. It just doesn't work.
Now, as a quick aside, I want you to recognize we're not saying here, okay, you can't use credit cards, because credit cards are a type of high interest debt. We're talking about you cannot carry a credit card balance. If you use credit cards, that's fine, but if you do not treat debt with the respect it deserves, because it can be a very useful tool, but if used inappropriately, it can be very, very dangerous. And if you don't believe us, just think about this mathematic here. If you had $5,000 in credit card debt and you had a 20% interest rate over the course of a year, that's going to cost you $1,000. Now, on the flip side of that, if you had $5,000 in investments and it made a very healthy 8% rate of return, which is great, you made $400. You can see that it takes a lot of $400 to replace that $1,000 you would have lost with that egregious predatory interest rate. It's why you have to get high interest debt knocked out.
Well, this is what I hate about debt, and this is why we call it chainsaw dangerous, is because it just seems so simple. It seems like it is a bridge to all of your answers, all of your problems you have. Because right now, you don't make a lot of money, but you have all these life needs. You're like, well, you know what? I'll use this debt bridge of credit card debt to protect me and get me there, because I'll make more money down the road. I'll just pay myself back. I'll pay it back. And even the money that I missed out on investing, I'll make that up too. But guys, I'm telling you, this is a bridge to nowhere, because yes, that $1,000 was already expensive. But guys, anybody who's listened to our content knows we don't only talk about just how much was lost. We talk about what that would be worth, because you are a billionaire of time. All of my young people watching this, your most valuable resource is that time. This, for a 20-year-old, $1,000 lost in that year just to consumption could have potentially become $88,000 at retirement. That is what the opportunity cost was on this. So it's not only stealing from you through cost of interest that you're paying to these banks, it's costing what that money could be for you in the future in your financial independence journey.
And here's what's devastating. We know that right now, according to a LendingTree survey, 1/2 of all Americans, 50%, carry a credit card balance month to month. 50% of Americans are paying these high interest rates for absolutely no reason. So if you're in this situation, if you're one of these 50%, what we want you to do is figure out, how do I get out of this? How do I get out of this high interest debt? And there are two very common methods when it comes to paying off debt. The first is a debt snowball. You may have heard of this, where you pay off all of your balance, the smallest to largest. And this helps build behavior. You get small wins early on, and then it compounds and compounds and compounds. If that is the way that you want to pay off your debt, that's great. The other alternative is what we like. It's called the debt avalanche, where you list all of your debts, starting with the highest interest rate, and you begin knocking out that highest interest rate. This is the most effective and optimal way to pay the least amount of interest. But whether you do the avalanche or the snowball does not matter, so long as you're doing something to begin getting out of this high interest debt.
So let's actually start figuring out, how do we get traction? How do we get out of this debt? To complete step number 3, here's the first thing. Let's write down, actually create a list of all of your debts. List your debts, list what the interest rates are on these debts. Figure out how much you have to wrangle to get control of your financial life. Because look, we're not anti-debt people. Now, I will tell you, I use credit cards. Credit card use is A-okay, but credit card debt, no way, because there's no way I am going to pay the bank 20+%. So determine which of your debts, after you list them all out, are what we consider high interest debt, and then create a plan on how you're going to pay it off as fast as possible.
And then once you get all those high interest debts knocked out, then you get to move on. And you get to move on to step 4 in the financial order of operations, building a fully funded emergency fund.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting. In our financial order of operations, 9 steps. But yet out of 9 steps, 2 of those steps are specifically to having cash on hand for emergencies or bad things. This is back to the point, guys. It's not a matter of if an emergency or bad thing is coming your way. It's a matter of when will this bad situation come. So you can imagine our shock and awe perspective when we find out 72% of Americans do not have a fully funded emergency fund. What are these people going to do when life comes and creates an emergency that they need to have resources for?
So if you are one of those 72% of Americans that does not have a fully funded emergency fund, here's what we want you to do. Step number 1, we want you to determine what is your actual cash reserve need. Do I need 3 months of living expenses? Do I need 6 months of living expenses? Am I nearing or in retirement and I might need 12 to 18 months of living expenses in liquid cash? Once I've defined that number, once I know what that is, once I've looked at my variables to determine which one is right for me, then I want to begin building on step 1. I already had my highest deductible. I already have that put aside. I want to start adding to that until I get that fully funded emergency fund. Once I've done that, I can check off the box for step 4 and I can move to step 5.